To the President of the Western Union in New York, The Pines, York Harbor, Maine. Dear Sir, I desire to make a complaint, and I bring it to you, the head of the company, because by experience I know better than to carry it to a subordinate. I have been here a month and a half, and by testimony of friends, reinforced by personal experience, I now feel qualified to claim as an established fact that the telegraphic service here is the worst in the world, except that in Boston. These services are actually slower than was the New York and Hartford service in the days when I last complained to you, which was 15 or 18 years ago, when telegraphic time and train time between the mentioned points was exactly the same, to wit, 3 hours and a half. 6 days ago, it was that raw day which provoked so much comment. My daughter was on her way up from New York, and at noon she telegraphed me from New Haven, asking that I meet her with a cloak at Portsmouth. Her telegram reached me 4 hours and a quarter later, just 15 minutes too late for me to catch my train and meet her. I judge that the telegram traveled about 200 miles. It is the best telegraphic work I have seen since I have been here, and I am mentioning it in this place not as a complaint, but as a compliment. I think a compliment ought always to precede a complaint, where one is possible, because it softens resentment and ensures for the complaint a courteous and gentle reception. Still, there is a detail or two connected with this matter which ought perhaps to be mentioned. And now, having smoothed the way with the compliment, I will venture them. The head corpse in the York Harbor office sent me that telegram, although one, he knew it would reach me too late to be of any value. 2, also that he was going to send it to me by his boy. 3, that the boy would not take the trolley and come the 2 miles in 12 minutes, but would walk. 4, that he would be 2 hours and a quarter on the road. 5, and that he would collect 25 cents for transportation for a telegram which he knew to be worthless before he started it. From these data, I infer that the Western Union owes me 75 cents. That is to say, the amount paid for combined wire and land transportation, a recoup provided for in the printed paragraph which heads the telegraph blank. By these humane and Christian stages, we now arrive at the complaint proper. We have had a grave case of illness in the family, and a relative was coming some 600 miles to help in the sick room during the convalescent period. It was an anxious time, of course, and I wrote and asked to be notified as to the hour of the expected arrival of this relative in Boston or in York Harbor. Being afraid of the telegraph, which I think ought not to be used in times of hurry and emergency, I asked that the desired message be brought to me by some swift method of transportation. By the milkman, if he was coming this way. But there are always people who think they know more than you do, especially young people. So, of course, the young fellow in charge of this lady used the telegraph, and at Boston of all places, except York Harbor. The result was handed to the H.C. of the Boston office at 9 this morning. It said, "Shall bring A.S. to you 11:45 this morning." The distance traveled by the dispatch is 40 or 50 miles, I suppose, as the train time is 5 minutes short of 2 hours, and the trains are so slow that they can't give a W.U. telegram 2 hours and 20 minutes start and overtake it. As I have said, the dispatch was handed in at Boston at 9. The expected visitors left Boston at 9:40 and reached my house at 12 noon, beating a telegram 2 solid hours and 5 minutes over. The boy brought the telegram. It was bald-headed with age, but still legible. The boy was prostrate with travel and exposure, but still alive, and I went out to console with him and get his last wishes and send for the ambulance. He was waiting to collect transportation before turning his passing spirit to less serious affairs. I found him strangely intelligent, considering his condition and where he is getting his training. I asked him at what hour the telegram was handed to the H.C. in Boston. He answered, brightly, that he didn't know. I examined the blank, and sure enough, the wary Boston H.C. had thoughtfully concealed that statistic. I asked him at what hour it had started from Boston. He answered up as brightly as ever and said he didn't know. I examined the blank, and sure enough, the Boston H.C. had left that statistic out in the cold, too. In fact, it turned out to be an official concealment. No blank was provided for its exposure, and none required by the law, I suppose. It is a good one-sided idea, I remarked. They can take your money and ship your telegram next year if they want to. You've no redress. The law ought to extend the privilege to all of us. The boy looked upon me coldly. I asked him when the telegram reached York Harbor. He pointed to some figures following the signature at the bottom of the blank, 12:14. I said it was now 1:45 and asked, "Do you mean that it reached your morgue an hour and a half ago?" He nodded assent. It was at that time half an hour too late to be of any use to me if I wanted to go and meet my people, which was the case, for by the wording of the message you can see that they were to arrive at the station at 11:45. Why did your H.C. send me this useless message? Can't he read? Is he dead? It's the rules. No, that does not account for it. Would he have sent it if it had been 3 years old? I, in the meantime, deceased, and he aware of it? The boy didn't know. Because, you know, a rule which required him to forward to the cemetery today a dispatch due 3 years ago would be as good a rule as one which should require him to forward a telegram to me today, which he knew had lost all its value an hour or two before he started it. The construction of such a rule would discredit an idiot. In fact, an idiot, I mean a common, ordinary, Christian idiot, you understand, would be ashamed of it, and for the sake of his reputation wouldn't make it. What do you think? He replied with much natural brilliancy that he wasn't paid for thinking. This gave me a better opinion of the commercial intelligence pervading his morgue than I had had before. It also softened my feelings toward him, and also my tone, which had hitherto been tinged with bitterness. Let bygones be bygones, I said gently. We are all erring creatures and mainly idiots. But God made us so, and it is dangerous to criticize. Sincerely, S. L. Clemens.